to what happened and telling the story of the game, because sports is so much more than just who shot what did they score, but it's giving that context as to why we're excited about that. And then just practicing and practicing and practicing your delivery, because that's fun, and being fluid with it. Our sports guys are notorious for writing a script. We will cut our video to it, match it as best we can, and then they get on TV and the moment moves them and suddenly the prompter doesn't match, but they're watching the highlights and they're doing that. And the best way you can practice it is if you have like a DVR at home, or you can record off your phone highlights of a sportscaster doing it. Take their highlights from home, try to write up your own highlights, and then just practice repeating them back. And how would you say it? What would you do? And kind of breaking it down that way. So awesome. Those are great questions. Anything else, Dylan? No? Okay. Sweet. Well, good luck. I would love to see one of your newscasts. You should email me a link. That would be awesome. So, okay.
So I currently, so actually, if you see, Omar is actually on here. He is not a student. I'm having some terrible Wi-Fi difficulties. Oh, so no. Like you keep freezing up for me and everything. So he's going to be recording this on our end. So people who weren't able to make it tonight, they can have those questions too. Awesome. It looks like we don't have any further questions right now. So if you want to keep talking, maybe something will spark asking questions.
Absolutely. So one of the things I think that one of the questions I'm asked all the time when people find out I do sports reporting, the questions of, oh, but you're a girl, have gone to the wayside. There are some old school guys who have that frame of thought, and I will say it's disappointing and it's frustrating, but the best way to get any naysayer, whether they're going, you're too young, or you don't have the experience, or you don't have anything, is to show up with your work. So to show up with prepared questions, to show up with an idea of what you think that story is going to be, and then to show up with an awesome end product. And that's the quickest way to get somebody to quiet down if they're hating on you, if they're questioning you, if they're doing anything, is to just show up and do the work. The other question I get all the time is, do you get free tickets? Sure don't. I get to go to a lot of games. I have a lot of press passes, but I sit and watch the game from the press box. And when I'm sitting in the press box, you're not cheering. You're not wearing any team apparel, and you're furiously taking notes. I said I go to a lot of baseball games. I keep a scorecard, and I'm the whole game jotting down. Now, there are some perks and some fun things about sitting in the press box. A lot of times you get free snacks. You get to meet some of the other sports people who are in town, which is always really fun. When the Super Bowl was here, it was really cool getting to meet some of the like NFL Today reporters and sideline reporters. And just like you guys right now are asking questions, I was picking their brain constantly. Like, how did you know to ask that question? How did you, what did you need to know? Well, it's because they're doing their homework, just like, you guys are. And so I think that's really fun. What else can I tell you? Most teams, we talked about the PR person that sports teams have. They are constantly sending us notes and stats and background on players. So one thing I wanted to show you was the Vikings media page. I'm just going to take a quick sip of water here. So the NFL teams, okay, and again, I'm sorry, this is so janky. My laptop for some reason doesn't like to connect up with Zoom. So the Vikings have this media page where they post stats and notes and press releases all the time, and they'll shoot us a quick email, and it's much more active during the season. But one of the things they'll do, I'll get this to click up, and then I'll zoom it in. Cool. That's not working the way I wanted to. Okay, here we go. So they just signed a new kicker because our Vikings kicker had a really, really rough season. And there's all these stats about them. So when we go to do our report, on the news that night, or we go to write up our article for the web, we know that Greg Joseph just won the Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the practice squad. So we've got somebody who already has Super Bowl experience joining the Vikings, and they've never won a Super Bowl. So we haven't even been to the Super Bowl in years. Before that, he played with the Tennessee Titans. He was with the Panthers. So we have all this information that they give to us that we don't have to track down. After games, during games, they also send out stats, and which is really nice because I'm not going to track every single thing and know every single record that every player has. But if you follow a lot of sports reporters and beat writers on like Twitter, you'll see all of a sudden everyone starts spitting out the same information at the same time. It's because it's given to us. So you don't have to be a mad statistician to know all of it. If you can track stuff yourself, that's awesome. If not, they'll help provide you with information. I'm so sorry, I have to cough. Getting over strep throat. So all this talking is awesome. So it's really great. The teams want to partner with you on stories. They want to get the good stuff out there. They want to help promote their players. They want to promote their teams within the communities. And that's on the collegiate level, that's on the professional level, and it's also in the high school level. Obviously, high schools aren't going to be sending you out stats constantly, but it's a good thing to just kind of track as the game goes. But you can always ask a coach or anybody on their team, like, hey, I'm looking for this information. Can you help me with it? They'll help you with it, especially when it's celebrating one of their players. One of the other questions I'm asked all the time is about social media and the access that we get. So on the professional level, I can go into the locker room, I can go to practices, I can go to shoot arounds, I can go to post-game skates, all that, and ask just about any question I want, as long as it's being professional. A lot of times if there's tougher questions that you want to ask, you don't want to ambush somebody. I think professionally that's courteous. Sometimes it's necessary in the type of report that you're doing. But when it's something that's a little more of a sensitive topic or something you want a little more of an in-depth conversation on, I like to pull that player aside or that coach aside and talk to them and have an actual conversation. So much of being a good sports reporter and being a good reporter in general is about making relationships with people. Like with anything, the more comfortable somebody is with you, the more they'll open up to you, the more they'll share. And athletes especially are very protected people because someone's always wanting something from them. In high school, I think it's probably a little easier to make relationships and bond some of those things, but it's a really important skill when it comes to reporting. And some of the best ways you can do that is to just check in, start talking, say hi, ask some questions, but don't always come in with an agenda. Sometimes it's just about getting to know the coach a little better. What's your background? Where did you come from? Where do you want to take this team? In high school, you're probably not going to get a big scandalous scoop on something, but maybe the coach is really involved in an after school program that the team's now getting behind as a special project. And that's a really great story. Maybe one of the kids who plays on the second string of the team or on the JV squad has a sibling who does something really special, and that's their bond, and that's something cool you can highlight and show. Sports and those feature stories don't always have to be about the star player, because it takes a whole team of people to get success. So I think that's something important to remember too, that it's not just the brightest stars who always deserve the praise, but there's a lot of people who are staying at practice late. There's a great story we did of a middle school janitor who would stay after practice and shoot hoops with some of the second, third string kids on our basketball team. And it was such a great story because these were just kids who wanted some extra practice. Nobody thought twice of it, but a parent flagged us on it and was like, isn't this so sweet? And it was such a great story. And it turns out that the janitor was somebody who never made his high school team, loved basketball, and thought it was just kind of a fun thing to do with the kids. And they formed a really great mentorship and relationship through it. And it was a really touching story. And so there's good stories everywhere. You know them when you get excited to pick up the phone and tell somebody like, hey, I learned this. Do you guys know about that? And it's the second they go, no, I didn't. It's like, a great story. And I have to cough again. I'm so sorry. And when you find those really good stories at your high school, tip off your local newspaper, tip off your local reporter, pitch it to them. If they pick up the story, you bet they're going to take you along for the whole experience. If I had a high school kid reach out to me with a pitch, or a college kid, and we picked up the story, I would have that kid glued to my side for the entire process, because they should get the credit for doing the work and coming up with a great story. And I think that that is so fulfilling for the reporter, for the producer, for everybody involved, the photographer. The best stories are always going to be the ones that come organically, whether it's sports or otherwise. So I think those are the biggest questions and talking points that I can think of. What I'm curious, I'm going to ask you guys some questions. For those of you who have a television newscast, a broadcast, or newspaper, and you're covering sports, like what are some of the stories that you want to do that you haven't been able to, and maybe I can help you try to come up with some ideas for how to do them. So I know this is a little tricky because we're not in a traditional classroom or like setting where there's eye contact involved. But if you guys have anything, I think that could be a fun exercise. Maybe, maybe not. I can't tell if anyone's chatting. Maybe not yet. That's okay. We'll do this. Social media. Social media is a really great way to see what people are up to. And it's a really great way to share what you're doing and to promote what you're doing. I think people really enjoy seeing, especially when it comes to sports, because you see all this stuff on TV or you see it in the newspaper. When you're at a game, to be able to like highlight and pinpoint, hey, here's what so-and-so's doing, and to tweet out those highlights, build a reputation for yourself. Show, if your school has a really good volleyball team and they don't have a social media page, offer to do their social media. I think that would be a really great way to get experience writing about them in small blurbs. It's a great way to practice taking pictures or video. It's a great way to practice interviews for when you want to do that. And it'll help get those reps in. The more practice you can do, the better. Oh, speaking on practice, when you're watching a game on TV, if you want to write sports highlights, practice those things that we talked about. What's the big play? What's the big moment? The stat, where's the point that won it? Tell me the story of the game, and just practice writing those highlights. It might take you 20 minutes to water down a game and to write highlights. That's okay. The more you do it, the faster you'll get at it, the more obvious it will be as you're practicing and writing to get those questions, or to get those highlights out. You'll know it when you see it. So practice, practice, practice. And I see a question that popped up. Okay. Players that were reluctant to do interviews. Laura, this happens all the time. would you guys mind popping up Laura full as we can chat about this?
Sure, I am on my way now.
Awesome.
I don't know if you guys
Okay.
can because you're frozen for me now. So I don't know, but she's
Oh, no.
joining right now. So here you go.
Okay, and then Dylan, then we're gonna get to yours. Okay, so Laura, did you end up getting the interview?
No, I didn't because I
Okay.
kept texting them like, oh, like we still want to do the story because it was the year that they won the state championship. So it was a really big deal. But they just like they kept making excuses. So I kind of just let it go because I didn't want to be like annoying or kind of intrude. So I just let it go.
Yeah. So the best thing I've learned is when you ask, be ready to just jump into an interview. Now, I know that that's going to be a little trickier because you guys are in school and there's, you have like your own schedules and complications, but, say to them like, hey, I'm going to stop by practice tomorrow after practice. Can I get 10 minutes? It'll take 10 minutes. I've got like 4 questions. I always try to approach it as like easy breezy. This is going to take no time. You already know, especially in sports, you're asking people questions they already know the answers to. What did it take to get the team here? How does this contribute to the school's legacy in the sport? Who are the key players in making you guys get this far? What did your coach say to you as the game was starting to get you amped? And so a lot of times, I think going to them directly is absolutely the right step and the right key. Asking a couple times. And the more confident you sound and like, oh, this is easy. I got this. When you start sounding confident, everybody else is going to follow your lead and be comfortable with it too. And then just real fast, because I know we do have to wrap up, I want to answer Dylan's question about how do I get a special segment with the Dodgers who went to your middle school? Dylan, if you go to any professional sports team, I think this is an awesome story for you. This goes to anybody. If you go to their pages, and if you have trouble finding it, shoot me an email and I can get you the Dodgers PR person. Send them an email and say, hey, he went to our school. I go to this school. I want to talk to him about his journey up in here. Use those PR people to your advantage. They want to help you, and they want, especially for stuff like this, like there's so much hometown pride that I think it would be awesome. You've got a kid from LA playing for the Dodgers, like that's awesome. So get that story. I can absolutely help you find the PR person for the Dodgers. That's not an issue if you can't find it online. But just send them an email, tell them what you're doing, and they should be able to help you at least get a phone interview, if nothing else, or send some questions that he can then answer. And I think that that's great. That's a high goal, and I think it's totally achievable. So on that, because we're coming up to 1:50 or my time, I'm in Minnesota. Again, if you guys have any other questions, any other problems that come up that you're not sure how to tackle during the school year, on anything, sports or otherwise, again, I also oversee our sports department, our news department. Go ahead, shoot me an email. It's right there on your screen. I hope I'm pointing to the right corner, and that it's not on this corner. But anyways, shoot me an email, ta.perlman@wcco.com. I'm also on social media. It's Partray. But if you just Google Tracy WCCO, all that'll come up. Hit me up with any questions you guys have, and send me anything that you want me to critique or things that you want some ideas for. I'm happy to help at all times. So sorry I can't be there with everybody in person this year, but hopefully next year we'll be all back in person, and I look forward to hearing and seeing from you guys. So with that, I will wrap and say thank you and have an awesome time with your competitions and the rest of the speaker series. There's some really, really great classes and really awesome people teaching this year. So with that, I'll wrap it up.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this, Tracy. I know we all appreciate your time and energy and putting into this.
Yeah.
Thank you for being flexible and just really giving us so much information. So thank you, guys.
Yeah. Happy to. Okay. Bye, guys.